Okay, everybody. My name is Anthony Leone. I'm a Director of Player Development here for the Southern California PGA. On behalf of the Southern California PGA, just wanted to thank everyone for hopping on today with Brady Riggs. Before we turn it over to Randy, wanted to give a quick update, kind of where we are. I mean, obviously, I know everyone has seen the announcements, the multiple announcements coming through in regards to the opening of courses. So Inland Empire opening earlier this week. Orange County just came on with a statement in regards to that county being open. So it looks like there's some light at the end of the tunnel here. We're definitely happy about that. I think, after Brady, or maybe Brady can incorporate some of this stuff into his chat. I think as we move forward, the idea of giving lessons post coronavirus, how this is going to work, is going to be really important and crucial to this chat. Maybe utilizing a little bit of technology. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Randy, and thanks for everyone being on. Randy, can you hear me? Looks like we're waiting on Randy to get his ear pods in. Randy, do you want me to turn it over to Brady, or okay? While we're waiting for Randy to sift through some of the technical challenges, obviously Brady's a gentleman who probably doesn't need much of an introduction. One of the leaders in coaching in the SCPGA. Has been on some great chats and some great webinars this past couple of weeks with our youth coaching virtual series. Not only that, some great discussions with some other great coaches on Instagram. So without further ado, Brady, the stage is yours, and thanks for being with us.
Wow, thanks for having me. I just set up my net back here and my mat, so I'm ready to go hit some balls with my 65% right elbow, which is healing at this point. But it's nice to be outdoors. I wish I was at my golf course like everybody else does right now, but we're making do where we have to. One of the things I just want to say is, at this point, we're doing a lot of sharing. A lot of us that have been on the lesson tee, stuck getting sunburned every day for years and years and years, have been able to kind of reconnect, which has been really fantastic. I've even seen Greg McCatton do a couple Instagram lives, which has been absolutely cool. With John Ray Leary's got a great Instagram live. He brings on a lot of different coaches, and I just think the information that's out there right now is really exciting. Everybody's just so willing to share, and so it's a time where we can all kind of get better, even though we're not actually teaching full time. So I don't know if is somebody feeding me questions. How are we going about this point?
Randy, are you able to?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
You got me now? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm having problems with hearing you guys. It's kind of coming in and out, so I didn't hear much of what Brady said. But I'll just start with what Anthony was alluding to and getting started with, as far as the golf courses are going to be are opening. And we have to be prepared from how we go about doing our instruction, doing our coaching. I did a kind of a mock a lesson with one of my students at my home yesterday, and it's not as easy as I thought it would be, with the habits that we all kind of have. So one of the things that my new equipment, obviously with the mask, the biggest thing on what we're trying to do is not catch it and not give this virus out. So one of the things is obviously getting used to wearing a mask, as well as your students. So the only way to contract this virus, the most common way is it's getting it on your hands and touching your face. And that's primarily, as they say, the way that we get this virus. So getting something to cover your mouth, because we'll be talking, obviously, is important. Having your students also wear masks or something, bandana, and also the way we even sneeze or cough again, to revisit the whole. I've always wore sleeves. So it'd be good to wear, long sleeves. I know it's getting hot, but these sleeves are actually cooling sleeves, and then also protective of the sun as well. So I would also recommend that, because when we are either coughing or with people that have any type of hay fevers and allergic to things out there, to be coughing, sneezing, obviously in your in your armpit. Right, so that's something that we are re-educating and training our students and even our juniors. So the face mask is going to be important. I say again, wearing the long sleeves, or start investing in some of these sleeves. As you can see, even Brady has some as well. So that's a big deal. My table of hand sanitizer, our disinfecting wipes. I got these. I've had these from. I bought these at Costco. These rubber gloves, 200 multi-purpose gloves that I'll also be wearing, especially in the first part of our, getting back into the business. The biggest thing is to show the people around, from parents and even people just watching, that we are doing everything we can to create the social distancing, as well as protecting ourselves and the students from either contracting or even giving it to you. So those are kind of the three main things. We do a lot of juniors. Our parents are normally invited to watch the lessons. And we're now going to say they just have to drop them off, or they can stay in the car. We also telling them all to bring their own canisters of water. We usually have had a cooler full of water, even some snacks, and we're disabling that. The other part was even having chairs for people to sit down when we used to do our video analysis. So we're getting rid of chairs. We're getting rid of the coolers and the waters that we used to give out to them. The other part that I really didn't realize was how far 6 feet is. A normal driver is about 44.5 inches. The average arm span is like 25 inches. I'd measure it, but what I found out was, getting this driver and my arm length that far would be, your 6 feet, and you have to get used to being that far away from your student. Some of the fun things that we did, since we always, used to greet everybody with a handshake, or with our students, a high five or a fist pump, in greeting. We devised just yesterday, instead of high fiving, we kind of called it we're going to high five irons. So one of the things is that our juniors, and especially our juniors, have to know how far to stay away from each other and to have some type of guidelines. So one of the things that we did was, just for a fun kind of thing, we called it our high five iron. So we went ahead and we would go ahead and tap our the heads together, say hello. But that also gave us a good idea as how far we have to stay away from each other. 5 iron is about 39 inches. So basically, you can say with both of you, besides the juniors, tap heads this way. That's how far that you have to stay away from each other. So that's a kind of a cool guideline. You can do, I know we're going to do some fun little shakes, club shakes, if you will, where, bumping it. We can go ahead and interlock. we can explode them, but have some fun with that anyways, because it's going to be a new type of greeting, because I've always been a little awkward when going, hey, hi, how's it going? Don't get as far as even a elbow tap, but we can call her a high five iron greeting. What else did I feel? So I don't know if anybody has started doing this, and Brady, chime in when you want of certain things. As far as the actual teaching, the lesson that we went through, I used to use these, and I continue to. I'll be using these a lot more, obviously, with these floaties that I just got from the dollar store. Actually, go to your dollar store right now, because they're all there. They're coming out for the summers. They're like 99 cents, but it has the whole real simple stuff to do. This keeps you more than far enough away. We were working yesterday on some path drills where obviously you just put that there and have them either swing under it, swing over it. We're working on fades and draws on paths using this. Her head was swaying forward, swaying back, I should say. So using this to stay far enough away. So I would definitely, I used to teach a lot this way. So it's kind of going back to that. And it was a challenge. As far as the range balls go, setting up for the range balls and just not sharing or touching anything the other person has touched. After the lesson, again, I'd go ahead and disinfect the parts that I felt like were shared, the iron, but that was about the only thing that I could say we both touched, even the table that I had with me. So that was the experience that I had. I think we all need to get out there and kind of practice that, because it wasn't that easy. Our habits that we have from teaching all this time just kind of kick into play and don't realize, how much that we do touch and get close.
Randy, on that point, I would just add that going out, I think what you just said is true about even teaching. We need to practice. So like taking a family member out, maybe working with them and that's been quarantining with you and getting used to the mechanics of the lesson now that are going to be really different than what we're used to, I think is a good idea. So I second that idea about practicing teaching right now.
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I'm going to try to get in and out again, because my, I can't hear Brady. Can you?
We can hear you, Randy.
Okay. I can't hear anything that Brady said. Could you guys hear what Brady said?
Brady, I can hear you. Can everyone on the call, if you can see this, just give a thumbs up if you can hear Brady. Okay. It seems like everyone else can. So okay. Looks like you're good, Brady. Might be just okay.
It's just me.
Yeah. Do you want me to do something that's bugging me right now? Is there's a lot of early extension drills out there. I wouldn't mind going over one of those if we're at that point of the day, Randy.
Looks like Randy might be off quickly.
Okay, I can do it.
We'd love to see that, and then also again, if it may be an opportunity for you after to talk a little bit about this, about how you might adjust your routine, or kind of how you're seeing people post COVID, and any changes you might make from a implementation aspect.
Got it. Okay, so here's one of the things that's driving me crazy right now. We know a lot about ground reaction force than we used to, and I see, we all know what early extension, your tush is coming in towards the ball. If anybody's been on my galleries for the last 25 years, you've seen the tush line and all these videos I've had about it over the years. I see this chair being used, or a wall, as a way to feel where the line is, and it's not a good idea. Here's why it's not a good idea. If I was gonna jump, okay, and I got my tush against this line, my weight would definitely feel like it's more in my heels. Well, I can't jump from my heels because I can't press the ground. So yes, I could sit here and hit the shot and stay against this chair the whole way, but it's not doing me any good in terms of utilizing ground reaction force or really helping me stay on the line. One of the reasons people lose this line is because they start with their weight in their heels. And because we're human beings, we don't want to fall over. If I start in my heels and I start swinging back, I'm going to go backwards. So I don't do that, because I don't want to fall over. So if I start in my heels and I go to where balance is, which is towards the ball, then I've already broken the line that I was trying to stay against. By putting a chair here, I'm actually training myself to do it incorrectly, unless you use it a little differently. So here's how I would suggest. I would say when you start out, make sure the weight is towards the balls of your feet. I always tell people I'd rather see them be able to tap their heels than to tap their toes. If you can tap your heels, you're more towards the balls of your feet. The good thing about that is if I start away from the chair a couple inches and I can tap my heels and then I could hit it going back, now I'm going somewhere I want to go. Instead of moving in the direction of the ball, I'm actually moving slightly back. If you draw a line on any tour player's tush, you'll see it'll go back towards where the chair would be on the backswing. They're not going forward. They're tending to go backwards, if anything. So if I start away from it, move towards it on the backswing, get both cheeks against it on the downswing, and then push back against it on the way through the ball of my left foot, which I've created at address. Now I'm going to keep my tush on the line, but I'm going to be dynamic. I'm going to be athletic and explosive. So just sitting here with your butt against this thing and swinging, that's not helping you. Know why it works the way it works, and you'll be way better off. So that's a pet peeve of mine. Sorry, got on my soapbox, but it's driving me crazy.
No, great info. Thank you for that.
Sure.
Again, we're waiting to field a few questions, but something like that information, how do you, again, post-virus, how do you see yourself kind of delivering this information? Brady, are you more of a hands-on instructor, or are you kind of someone who tries to deliver the information, have your student feel what they need to feel for themselves?
I'm from the Ben Doyle, Greg McCatton school, so my hands are all over people. I'm throwing them around. I'm very interactive with people. I don't sit down. I mean, I'll definitely hang out and watch shots, but if I'm trying to teach them something technical that they need to know a feel or change the feel, then I would definitely be hands-on. So it's going to require me to do things a little bit differently. And it's a really great question. The thing I would say is be specific, try. And this, Tom Barber a long time ago, Tom Barber at Griffith Park, he was interviewing me for my first teaching job. This is in 1990, I think, something like that. And one of the things he said to me, he said, go give a mock lesson, I'll watch. I said, okay. So I said, well, you want to be here instead of there, do this instead of that. And he told me, no, I want you to always be specific. Say left, right, more up, more down. Try to make sure that you're very clear with the words that you're saying. So where we could usually kind of bypass all that by getting somebody to move by moving them around, now we're going to have to be even better at being specific and clear about our directions, because if we're not, that confusion is going to shine through and the student won't get better.
Great. So let's see. Great. Josh, that's a great chair, face-on perspective. How would you teach a grip to a beginner, someone with a poor grip from 6 feet away?
It's a really good question. I think, one of the things you want to I still think, and Randy was talking about this before we started, was utilizing some technology still is a good idea. If you have an ability to use an iPad on the floor or another device or whatever it is so people can see, that's great, because then you can show sort of where they are and where you'd want them to be. Our normal way would just be to get in there and move hands around. So I think just again, what I just said about being really specific is important. So like, let's say, for example, we're going to do the top hand, right? And we're going to say, okay, your left hand, I want you to put it underneath the heel pad. And then you'd have them hold it so that it's underneath the heel pad, and they could get their index finger on the bottom and their heel pad on top. Now they've got it in a decent spot. And then I would say, make sure your left thumb is down the top and the side and not just down the top or the side. And that helps them kind of get a sense of where they're going to begin with. And then you're going to be making your adjustments from there. The right hand is cool. You can show them the lifeline of their right hand and how the thumb of the left hand fits right into that nice little pocket there. And then we'd tell them the same thing about the right thumb, not on top, not on the side, but on the top and the side. And whether they're going 10-finger, interlock, overlap, I personally don't care one way or the other what that is. But I think you can walk them through the right grip. And if you have technology like Randy's using where you can show another screen at the same time, that's not a bad way to go.
Brady, I got a question for you. I mean, it seems like it's maybe a unique opportunity for those who have been really hands-on to maybe, learn a little bit different of a skill as a coach, right? You're giving out information. Give me an idea of how you deliver information, how you think about it. I mean, I assume someone of your caliber probably is not going to be over-delivering information, right? So I think, there's a bit of a fine line to walk there.
Sure. I think it's something we're always dealing with is, the right amount. The least amount you could do is always the best amount and still get your point across. So constantly trying to make sure that we're, giving them the most important pieces of the puzzle and not the whole puzzle. Self-discovery is important. But I would say that if you've been doing some online lessons right now, if that's something that you've been partaking in, then you're getting great practice at not being able to put your hands on somebody. Because if you're doing a FaceTime lesson, you're talking them through it, you're showing them from, your phone to their phone. I think it's a really good way to practice it because that's essentially the same setting we're going to be in. We're just going to be able to see the ball fly, which is great. But I think if you're practicing the online stuff, it can be really helpful when we transition to not being able to get as close to people.
Can I ask on the call, is there anyone during this time who's maybe had an opportunity to start offering online lessons and maybe share what you've gone through and your experience of starting the online training process? Well, then maybe Brady. Sorry,
yeah,
go ahead.
I can jump in there. I would say, like, here's what I've done. This is as low tech and cheap as it gets. Okay, so there are apps out there. Coach Now, Huddle. There's V1. There's all kinds of different things you can use. You can use your iPhone if you have an iPhone. I tell people, they'll reach out to me. Hey, how can you help me online? And I'll tell them this. I'll say, okay, send me video of a middle iron, 765, whatever, and your driver if you can, from face on and down the line. Send me a snapshot of your grip. Give me a basic idea about your game, in terms of what your big miss is, what your contact problem is, toe, heel, bottom, sky, whatever. What are some of the biggest fears you have in the game? Give me a little background about your history, all the normal interview stuff that we do. And then they send me everything in a couple text messages. I get the videos, I get their history, and now I have a pretty good idea about this person. And then what I do is I spend some time clipping some screenshots of their swing versus maybe some ideas I have for them of some other swings. I write up a whole thing in a text message. Hey, this is what I see. This is why you're having this miss. I'll send them a couple of videos of maybe some ideas to help them get better that are on my phone. I can just add a link if it's somebody that I like that I think has a good description of it. And then I send it back to them. And then I say, okay, let's get on a FaceTime call. And then on the FaceTime call, they've got a club, I've got a club. And now I'm teaching them without me being there. They don't need to be at the range. It's great if they are, but if they're not and they're just in their house, we can talk about the feels that they have. If they're using a net, we can hit balls into the net. I think there's plenty of ways to help somebody get better without having to go more techie even than your iPhone. Your iPhone does everything you need it to do if you just, get a little creative with how you're using it. I know some of the other apps are there, and I don't have a problem with any of them. I just, why not use the iPhone? It can do everything I need it to do.
And Brady, how are people contacting you? Is it something where are you texting them saying, hey, I'm offering this service, or are they just getting in touch with you and asking about that?
It's a really good question. So, I have a lot of people that follow me on Instagram, which is @redgoat. Used to be red. It's white. I know. But it's @redgoat. So people will reach out to me there. They'll send me a message. Hey, how can I do online lessons? And then I have a copy and paste description of what I want them to do. And I copy it in there and send it out. And I give them my phone number and away we go. I have people send me emails asking me how I can help them other students of mine that, I've been teaching for a while, they'll send me a text, hey, how can we work on it? So there's, I think it's hard if you don't have the apparatus already in place with your social media. I'm not a big social media person at all. I mean, there'll be months that go by where I don't post anything. But now, because I'm so bored and I want to do stuff, I'm actually online a lot more, which is, I guess, good in some ways. But I think if you just get people the information, say if you have a client list via email, whatever you're doing, just get the word out that you're offering the services. And, once you get one, you'll get better at it. And it's pretty cool. In terms of, like the payment thing, I charge about half as much as I normally would for an hour. I feel like that seems fair to me. But I don't know. I'm wigging that too.
And so great info there. I know there's a lot of other coaches. John Ray Leary, who you mentioned, hosts basically like an online practice session, like a live practice session where you essentially hit balls together.
Right.
There's a lot of kind of unique, innovative stuff coming out of this period right now. I want to ask you, you said you weren't really active in social media prior to this happening. Do you feel like that habit is going to change once we kind of go back to normal, once we go back on the golf course?
It's a good question. I mean, I love teaching, and that's why I'm out there all the time. I mean, when I'm not teaching, I'm at home on somebody's feed, checking out something, trying to learn. So I'm always on social media. I just don't like promoting myself for no reason. I always feel like it's a little, I don't know, I just have this issue with it. So it's my own, it's a Brady issue, not an issue for anybody else. But I think that everybody's going to change what they've been doing. I mean, there's no way we can't be impacted in our professions with what's happening right now. So I think that I have a guy in London who I'm teaching. I have a guy in Toronto. I have a couple of people in North Carolina. I've got people all over the place, which is really cool because I wasn't teaching them before. So from that standpoint, I think I'll still be teaching those people. But man, if I had a chance to go just teach the way I used to teach versus doing online stuff, I'd go back and teach in a second. But I don't know that that's going to be an option, So I think I'll do some of this still for sure. And I'm hoping that maybe I'm a little more motivated to post stuff. But I think some of the feedback has been encouraging for me because last week's seminar was really fun with my daughter, talking about practicing and how important it is to have a plan and all that stuff. And I've been posting some stuff on Instagram this week about that as well.
Thank you for that info. We got a few questions coming in, and not
Great.
necessarily Brady specific, but just more general questions. We'll start with Heidi. Heidi writes, how are we going to adjust our group programs, such as weekly clinics, upcoming summer camps, 2030 juniors? How will I teach all of them? How many can be in one group? Instead of 1 hour with 25 kids, not sure we will be able to have to schedule 3 to 4 hours with 5 to 10 kids. Huge negative impact on income. I guess I'll start here. Obviously from the section standpoint, golf in schools, we deal with kids in groups all day, every day. Do a lot of summer camps as well. So working with some of our partners in Orange County, talking about just that stuff. And I'll start with the last comment first. I think there, in some ways, is going to be a negative impact on our income. I mean, there's in some instances, unfortunately, it's just it's unavoidable. We can't get the amount of groups that we could before. I think a key is making sure that, first of all, you have the appropriate amount of space, right? So that we're appropriately social distancing. Not only that, I think blocking out your day a little bit differently. Most summer camps are lasting from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It might have to be where you're doing 2 or 3 separate half-day camps in order to accommodate some of these or all of your customers. I'll open it up to the floor if anyone has any other comments in regards to how they're going to do their schedule, their summer scheduling, especially as it pertains to summer camps.
Let me chime in. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you, Randy.
So, as you said, Heidi, yeah, there is going to be a negative impact, and we have to just, that's part of what we have to deal with. But you can kind of even it out, because if you have 25 kids for that hour, and they're you must not be charging very much for that per individual. So if you go down to, we're doing it at 4, it's going to be 4 to 1. And again, as I practice how I'm going to be doing my individual type of lessons, we're going to kind of start practicing on the criteria for these groups, which is going to be up to 4 right now. So, but instead of the 25 kids, and you break it down to 3 hours or 4 hours, you can charge more. So they're getting more attention at the smaller group. So you need to raise your prices, and you should, because they're going to be getting more individual attention instead of 25. So I wouldn't be afraid to do some of the math, and you're not going to get the full probably return on it as far as your time goes, but you can definitely raise your prices because you've got the smaller groups, and that's what we're going to be doing.
Thanks, Randy. Heidi, just another note on that. I mean, again, I mentioned it last coach chat, and I'm saying it to anyone who will listen. I think the key is in regards to getting people, right? So it's a couple factors. First, it's getting people being comfortable coming back to the golf course. So I think the more you can post happy, smiling faces on the golf course, in regards to social media and all that stuff is going to be really important. And I think also communicating, Randy gave a great, at the top of this call, he gave some great tips on how to keep, we're keeping sanitary. We're making sure that everyone is safe, not only for yourself, but for your students, hand sanitizer, et cetera, et cetera. I think communicating that information to your parents so they feel comfortable is going to be a huge asset, and it's going to really help people feel comfortable to getting back to the golf course and know that their kids are safe, and that at least we're thinking about it.
This is Josh.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, I was just going to, Heidi, to your point, and weigh in. I'm starting actually this week. Our programs are run through our golf course and through our city. So our summer camps had 320 kids in them last summer. So it's like 42 a week, I think. So we're going to have to do a major overhaul. And I think that the danger is if we try to go too big and the world says you can't do it, we're going to spend a lot of time doing things that aren't functionally going to happen. So as much as I don't want to do it, I'm working right now in planning for a guideline that has the max of 10, which I'm going to think of as 8 kids and 2 instructors, and space that entire program out so that we can first and foremost run the program adhering to guidelines and just say that's what it's going to be. I'm preparing for a maximum of 8 kids at a time and 2 instructors. Probably will, like you said, do a half day, a 4-hour thing for our summer camp kids. And maybe do them back to back or something. So I'm putting a full day into 2 halves, and in that light, you'll be doing 16 kids a day with that. And that I think that's sort of where I want to start it. I'm concerned with the amount of time it might take to put something together and then have the world say you can't do it. I'm going to prepare something that I think that I actually will be able to pull off.
Yeah, John, that is definitely the most important part of it in this reopening and getting back, is to get the confidence not only of our parents but the community as well, because that's what got us in trouble the last time when they kept it open. No one practiced the policies, rules, procedures, and it just looked bad. So that's why we're starting off very small as well, and once we get the curve obviously to drop off, the last things like what Josh said is put all this work into it, and then all of a sudden the city goes, oh, or your county goes, oh, we got to shut it back down again because it just doesn't look good. So that's kind of the most important thing right now. We are going to take a hit, but we have to go about it that way. While I have Josh here on the line, if you didn't see the Youth Summit 3rd session with Andrea Lee, Allison Kurt, Nikki Gatch. It was another great insight to, our juniors as they go from just picking a golf club up and the process where she is now, on the LPGA tour. So that was really good. The last 3 sessions have been great. So Josh, can you tell us what we have to look forward to this coming Tuesday?
Yep. Next session, I'm actually meeting on it this afternoon. It's our speaker is Brandon Cohen. He's the founder of Liquid IV, which is one of our sponsors. It's a company that has gone in just a couple of years from very, very small to they are now sold in every store in America, and they're doing massive things internationally to support health and philanthropically putting hydration in kids all across the world, and supporting our folks who are on the front line in this crisis. So it's going to be a lot about what we are doing to prepare people, creating a better next generation of people through the game of golf. He was a golfer. He came up through our whole system, so some of it will just be his story in golf, but really trying to inspire, our abilities to really make a major difference through our students in ways beyond golf. So we're gonna get into some golf and some non-golf stuff on this next one. I believe Jason Diamore, he's the head coach of LMU, will be on that as well. Again, to sort of support the conversation of developing people and how we're doing that. So that's the subject matter for next week.
All right. Thanks, Josh. Again, thanks for all your work in putting this all together, and they've been great. I've enjoyed them a lot. Anybody on this call, on this chat, is your golf courses are opening up and you are planning to get back out there and do some teaching?
Hey, Randy, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was going to say on the teaching front, and I know this really isn't on topic with the juniors necessarily, but I think that I'm in the LA City golf course system where I teach. I don't see us opening the ranges first at all. I think they're going to be a ways off. I think most of the lessons I'm going to be doing in the beginning will be on the golf course, which is where I always rather am anyway. So I think maybe if you have a couple students, that might be an opportunity, especially if they're together, a husband and wife or brothers and sisters, whatever that is, then getting them on the golf course is a great way to kind of make it a little easier to use social distancing practices and be a little further from each other, and then work on the other parts of the game that are so important about strategy and kind of problem solving and whatnot, instead of just being on the range banging balls. So I think it gives people an opportunity to maybe learn other parts of the game that they may not have otherwise had access to by just being stuck on the range.
Yeah, thanks, Brady. Our golf course, when they do open, we've already discussed it, on the driving range anyways, they're going to be going every other. They'll be spacing them out on the driving range that way. So that's why for us, we need to have it by just 4 being max. Otherwise, we take up the whole driving range. But, again, the practicing to Heidi's point of practicing how not to get too close or not to get close, and have some of those guidelines or references with our little high 5 iron, types of things, just to get used to being that far away for now. I think it's going to be the biggest important thing. And you're right. Some of the driving range won't open because it just doesn't look good from the outside community. I know, Blake, you're on here. Are you got any plans for I know you always have very crowded junior summer camps in the summer. Are you starting your plans or getting anything going?
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, I'm in communication with Henry right now. We've been discussing kind of our next steps with everything going on. We will be limiting our group sessions to 4-to-1 ratio, maybe 5-to-1 during summertime, but just initially 4-to-1 ratio. We don't know what our pricing is going to be or what that's going to look like exactly, because that's going to have to change. But as far as our summer camps go, we're discussing possibly staggering times with the peak kids coming out and having the same number of kids just in different time frames. So almost having one staff member with this group of kids for the 3 or 6 hours, depending if you're doing a half day or full day. So we're just trying to be creative and come up with innovating ideas so we can see a large number of kids and also being able to accommodate everybody. So we're just trying to plan, and we're not planning on opening in for another 2 to 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks right now. So we're just kind of using this time to do that.
Hey, Blake, if I could throw this idea out there too. I mean, if you have the space accommodations and you have the staffing, I mean, you can essentially assign a coach to a particular group. Let's say you had one group of 5 or 6 kids out on the golf course, 5 or 6 kids on a putting green, and 5 or 6 kids in the driving range. Essentially, they're rotating through those stations without coming in contact with each other, right? So, if our coaches are make sure that they're monitoring the social distancing, I mean, it is a possibility that we can accommodate more kids. Again, spatial requirements are important there.
Yeah, I think if you're able to monitor the space and kind of have, okay, one group's going to be on the chipping green, then one group's going to go to the full swing area, one group's going to go to the putting area, and you're just having a wheel format. And the biggest thing that we're going to notice is if you have a large number of kids, you want to make sure that you're not having everybody show up at the same time. Because if you have 20 kids pull up in a parking lot, or even just 5 kids, let alone in the parking lot, that's where the social distancing will be a challenge. So my point is stagger the times out as best you can, and just trying to have one group or one coach per group of kids, or even adults too if you're doing adult coaching.
Yeah, we had a question come in. Let's see. It said, the facility is anti-teaching. Are there any suggestions to make them more comfortable allowing small groups or camps? I'll throw out a quick comment here, and then I think the key is, especially as we're coming out of this, is to make sure that we're showing the value of having kids, parents, etc., at your golf course, right? So I think there is a huge value to having kids, small groups at your facility, and that you're becoming a part of the community, which is a huge part of these things coming back. And then when we eventually can, there's opportunities to host parent-child events where we're adding food and beverage opportunities there. So that's maybe long-term stuff. If anyone else wants to take a stab at that question.
Anthony, what was the question again?
The question was basically if a facility is anti-teaching, which maybe we need a little bit more clarity on, is there a suggestion to make them more comfortable allowing small groups or camps? Yeah, again, I think it's really a value proposition for the facility, right? If you're bringing kids on to the golf course, if you are then those parents are hanging out eventually when they can and buying a drink and watching their kids play, and then maybe we're offering an opportunity for those parents to come out and play with their kids. Maybe they might be beginner golfers. I think that's to me what I would be looking to do is kind of showing that value.
Yeah, I agree, Anthony. There's that monetary, the value, the revenue value that you have to be able to measure. That's definitely what we do. There is, as far as liability issues, which again, we definitely show one of our first things in our mantra of our teaching in surf is safety. It's not only safety for safety for the kids, but safety for everything. So, and that's the way we've went ahead and been able to be at different golf courses as we are with our programs, with our junior programs. And you are covered also as a PGA professional. What they want to see normally is what kind of insurance that you have, and those are the things that get us by, that question.
Great. Doesn't look like we have any additional questions. We mentioned Brady, I know you're father to a great college golfer. Maddie, who's turning into a great player. Can you kind of give me an idea of her golfing journey and kind of how you helped in that, she's obviously, and if you listen to our virtual coaching series, there's a great segment in regards to a practice combine. It's also on Brady's social media channels. Give me an idea. Take me through her journey, and if you kind of try to replicate her journey with your students, if there's any overlap there.
Yeah, she started probably as soon as she could walk. She had a club around, but she didn't play hardly any golf growing up. I mean, it was always go to the course, swing the club a couple times, go have a snack, screw around. I mean, that was kind of her golf experience. She played a little bit here and there, but soccer was her first love. She started playing that at 4. I started coaching her at 4. I coached both daughters all the way through their high school years, and I still coach high school soccer, actually. So soccer was a big part of our lives in terms of inside the house. Golf was always an afterthought. She had a concussion as a sophomore in high school and made her want to kind of mess around with golf a little bit more. She was on the high school team, but wasn't super serious. And then when she came back, she decided she wanted to see how good she could get. And that moment sort of transitioned me as a teacher too, because I think I spent too much time on the range and didn't spend enough time on the golf course with people. Just from a financial standpoint, it just didn't make sense to go on the golf course. But I wasn't doing my students any justice by not getting on the course as much as I should have. So with her, because we had to fast forward the process, we spent a lot of time on the golf course. I'd say most of the time we spend, even to this day, is on the course. It's probably a 90-10 ratio between golf course to practice on the range. And then I kind of devised a bunch of practice plans that would help her get the most out of the time she was practicing so that we could make it as much game-like as possible. And, she's like a lot of athletes that get bored by just sitting there hitting balls. So she wanted to go out and compete and do things. So, yeah, it changed me as a coach because I realized that I was making some mistakes and not really helping people play better golf. I was making them swing better, but I wasn't making them play better. So I think that my priorities changed when she wanted to play more, and it helped me as a teacher. So I employ that with everybody that I work with. I try and get on the golf course as much as I can because of that reason.
Bob Madsen is jumping in his boots here, hearing that information.
Anthony, can you hear me? It's Jamie Mulligan.
Hi, Jamie. Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, first of all, Brady, I want to say it's been really nice to listen to you. No wonder you're so good at what you do, and I love listening to your take, and I've got to watch it evolve over the years, so super, super fun. And one thing that I was going to encourage everybody, I've been thinking about this a lot, this situation forced everybody to kind of think about playing the short game rather than the long game. Meaning, how do we get back our income that we lost? How do we
Jamie, you're breaking up there.
Everything that's happened in the last couple of months? How do we get doing this for a long, long time and coaching at 2 of the busy? Yeah, I'm going to let that go. I'm in a bad spot outside where it's windy, so I'll let you guys keep going, okay?
You sound good now. And we would love to hear what obviously Jamie always has to share with us. Josh, I wanted to ask about Andrea yesterday. As far as, did she play other sports as well before she decided to take golf seriously?
Yeah, she did soccer, ice skating, piano. There was two others. She had 5 or 6 activities that she was involved in. Started golf at 5. Uh, Found her longtime golf coach at 8 or 9. So she started working with who she's still with today when she was 9. And I think she was 11 or 12 when she cut everything else out and stayed completely focused on golf.
Yeah, so that just gets us back again to that to the PJ.coach and the ADM model that we continue to stress everyone out there to go through, and hopefully everybody on this call has. If you have not, go through that PJ.coach, because it continues to show to retain golfers for life. And we're not talking about having to get on tour or get to college, but just you know, building them as athletes, growing up, introducing to the game the different levels where you want to start to get totally serious and specialize in one sport continues to be proven. So you folks will learn a lot from that. So please, if you folks have not gone through it, this is the time to do it, where it won't take but 3 hours to go through all this, but you're going to learn a ton. One other thing I forgot to update. I don't know if Junko is still here to update us as far as Junior League with all the changes. Are we still at the May 10th date?
Hey, Randy, thank you. I'm still here. And yes, the May 10th date is still our season postponement date as of right now. No true further updates. We're just trying to see what ultimately the CDC says, and then we're trying to get a gauge on what most states are doing, as well as for, is it going to be state decision, county, cities, et cetera, too, for the whole country. So obviously we will keep everyone posted as for how we decide for what happens with PGA Junior League. But again, as always, we're just trying to prioritize the regular season. So one thing we do know for sure is we are asking for everyone to plan their seasons, to play throughout the rest of the year. And we will figure out postseason too, and how we need to make those changes, modifications, or even if we need to cancel postseason.
Okay. Yeah, we are ourselves at all of my schools are preparing to get started whenever the golf courses do get open, but it may be only, instead of eight players, we may just be doing 4 just to get going, just for us personally, just to get them back playing on the golf courses again. So Junko, so everyone's going to be kind of doing their own, because everyone is different, right, as far as when they're going to open and what they want to do. There's not going to be any specific guidelines yet as far as Junior League goes on the numbers.
Right. We're obviously going to be flexible. So if there are facilities who, if the May 10th date gets lifted and we're told that we can start the season, depending on what facility restrictions are, I will be here to work with everyone. So yes, we are probably going to be, or we are encouraging more mini in-house leagues for the time being, just because I think that's the safest as well, or we believe that's the safest. So even if you can get 8 players, 12 players to register at max, that's great. We can talk about creating 2 different teams, maybe two teams of 6 players, and you're just playing at home against each other when we can. But we are working on guidelines as well and modifications to our conditions of play, and we're also figuring out a way to align with allied associations as well as health officials on what would be the best way to move forward for PGA Junior League.
All right, thanks, Junko. Anybody have any comments, questions, concerns for Junko while we have her on?
Can I make a comment on something else?
Yes.
While we have him, this is just a little business from yesterday. We ran out of time at the end of the youth summit. We do trivia questions for prizes, and I just wanted to acknowledge, because he's on the call here, Charles Delory, you were the winner of the SCPGA beach towel blanket from yesterday. So congratulations, my man. I was stoked that you got that, and I just wanted to acknowledge and honor your wisdom in the trivia world.
Thanks for that, Josh. The other thing is getting, as far as guidelines going, getting back into it. Tasha, I think this is Browner now, is our last year's Teacher of the Year. Gave a good list of guidelines that she's put together, and I'd like to hear a lot more. I know Jamie is working diligently on these guidelines himself, and working with the section. But some of the little things that I just did myself, I'd implore everybody to go ahead and try to give a little practice lesson, staying 6 feet away, and see how that goes. Because I promise you, it is definitely different. So one of the things, again, as far as technology goes, all I'm doing is bringing a monitor out. So we don't have to share real close my little iPad, but it all has your phones as well, can mirror on any monitor and TV, a small little TV. That you can go ahead and use from a technical standpoint to, again, communicate as best as you can to your students. Brady, thanks again for your time.
Sure.
And everybody that continues to come on these calls. I hope it is being helpful. And if anybody has any other input, this is time to do it now. We have a couple more minutes, as well as just email me or anybody, if you know, on the teaching committee, that will get that information back to me to talk more about our next chat that we'll continue to have as long as we're all here and trying to figure out these crazy times. Anthony?
Yeah, thanks, Randy. There's a couple quick housekeeping things here, and to answer a question or to follow up on what you spoke about. Yeah, Bryce and myself are going to be visiting with Jamie tomorrow to film a video as to best practices, right? So we're hoping to have that up and out to you guys sooner than later, to kind of give you guys some ideas of, again, keeping everyone safe, including yourselves, and maybe delivering information in a different and effective way. There is a catalyst tomorrow. Again, as we have this time hanging at home, there's a great opportunity to kind of educate ourselves. Randy mentioned PGA.coach, great opportunity there. There's webinars or virtual series daily. So Catalyst tomorrow, our Cal Chats are every Monday and Friday. Those are amazingly informative as to the work going behind the scenes, kind of what we're doing with our governing bodies here in Southern California to make sure that golf opens up sooner than later. So I encourage everyone to hop on those calls. So thanks, Randy, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for filling in for Nikki. And thanks, everybody, for, again, your input. And we will see you folks again next week, Wednesday. But go ahead and get on the chat on Friday, and for sure next week, Tuesday, on the 4th session of our virtual youth summit. All right. Thank you, everybody.